Let's talk about painting, specifically these wagons. I know this is not a reference to an old Western titled Paint Your Wagon, but I want to share with you how using pretty much one color of paint, uh, I create these paint jobs on this wagon. I've started off with a ghost gray airbrushed primered on the left wagon, and then on the right, there's just a rattle can flat white primer, burnt umber paint, and a cup of water. This is really it, man. There's the magic. The trick in this, and I use a heat gun because I need this to dry quickly so I can build my layers up and I don't have to wait for the paint to dry in between coats. It's a way to control the water and the drying time. The real key here is there's wood grain textured into this FDM print, and I want to stay in going with the direction of the grain. And as I lay this paint down, I dip the brush in the water and I dip it in the paint, and I just lightly brush the wash over the surface, building up the strength of the overall color as I go. And the key here is I want to allow the color of the primer to show through the bottom, to show through the burnt umber paint. So I don't want to go too dark with this. And if you notice, most of my highlight area is running down the middle of the model floor, of the wagon floor. And I want to keep with that theme and just sort of brush it all toward the center, adding water sometimes I'm just adding paint, and I'm just bringing it toward the middle, not quite covering the middle, sort of like a rat tail stroke, toward the center of the floor, leaving that middle part to show like the gray primer. Not 100% of the gray primer because I have painted over it with a little bit of watered down burnt umber, but it shows enough to make it look like there's some bleached out wood there in the middle. And then I do the same on the handles, going with the direction of the grain. Another key here is you don't want to add too much water and get drips down the side and stuff like that, because as this dries, it's going to dry in the pattern of the water, and you really want to avoid that. You can fix it, but you don't want to have to fix it. So go slow and just really take your time with it. Use the heat gun. If you get any extra water on there, brush it in and then hit it with the heat. But you can see how we're starting to build up a color of worn out looking wood here, and all I've really done is just allowed the base color of primer to show through. And the primer that I used here, like I was saying, well, first of all, you see that little splotch on the side right there? We're going to fix that. That's where water got down. I used a little bit too much and it got down on the side. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to avoid. I do it, but you can fix it. It's watered. You can fix it before you seal it, spray seal it. And it's pretty easy. It's just watered down paint. So you just add more water to it. But I was going to say this primer on here is Vallejo Ghost Gray. I really like the way that primer goes through the airbrush, man. It's a nice primer. I didn't have to reduce it. It's just a really good looking primer. Same thing on the bottom here, keeping the center sort of exposed. We'll paint over it with some really watered down burnt umber, because it doesn't look right if it's just 100% of the primer showing through. You got to knock it back with a little bit of the wash. And so you saw before I did that, I dipped the brush in the water. And the same process here on the bottom as I did on the top. We're just going to brush the washes on and slowly build everything up. Leave the highlight there in the center. Let's get the edges. Blend those in just a little bit. When painting this kind of thing and then you have wood grain on it, you have to hit every angle. Flip it over, turn it upside down. I mean, there's a lot of spots that can show through it. I'm going to show you how that's more obvious on the white when you're painting with a white primer. Good Lord, it's a million times worse. But same thing here. We don't want splotches. We want to blend. We don't want hard transitions of color. We want pretty smooth transitions of color. If I can learn to talk. It's only 3 in the morning when I do this, so forgive me if I talk a little slow. And down there you can see we've got a few little splotches. I'm fixing that right now with just a little bit of watered down burnt umber, and I'll go back through with a little bit more paint, and then I'll just slowly build up over the top of those splotches and get those smoothed in. See here? Away they go. But notice I'm going in the direction that the wood grain would be going. You don't want all these different crisscross hatches of color. Now, let's talk about the white. Now, the white and the gray are, neutral colors. They're not going to change the color of the paint that goes on top of them. The bright might, make it a little bit brighter, but it's not going to change the color of it. And the thing about doing the white, and the reason I did the white is because it's going to give me a little bit different look. The reflections are going to show through a little bit brighter. But the thing about doing it with the white is it reveals a lot. The white takes a lot more coverage. And it reveals all the flaws. And so you have to really inspect it and go over it and make sure that everything is covered and there's no banding and you got smooth transitions, and it will reveal wherever you missed putting paint. So be aware of that. White is like painting over a light. It's going to show through all the cracks and everything. So you really got to get your coverage down. So here on these panels, these are removable panels. I made the panels so that you can take them on and off the cart. There's little wooden slats here, and I've got just enough fluid on my brush, and I go in the direction of the grain on the slats because there is wood grain on these little slats. Yeah, I modeled it like that, and it just adds a little bit more detail to it. And we're doing the same thing here, just slowly building up our base watered down wash, and then I'll go through once I get a good coverage on that and work my way from the edges. I'll darken it at the edges and make it lighter toward the center. It's just an easy way to stay consistent. Same thing, we've got white panels and we've got the gray panels. And I did the white as a base coat also from the rattle can because I wanted to see for myself if sometimes I need to get the airbrush out and do this, and I don't. You can totally use a rattle can primer without any issue. I use spray paint a lot, and sometimes I don't feel like getting out an airbrush and then having to hook up the hose and then clean it and change colors. And I'm not saying I do that to paint the complete model, but for something like primer, man, I'll use a rattle can. It's totally fine. It doesn't hide or mask the details, and there's small details on this cart. The wood grain is pretty small. If you're not close to the model with the rattle can and doing it all crazy and getting all kinds of runs and drips, stand back from a distance and let it sort of dust onto the print. Rattle can primer is fine. Save the airbrush for something different, Time is valuable. So here we're building up. You can see already what's happening here with the panels. We're just building them up, allowing the primer base coats to show through, flipping them over. Now this is a bit tedious because you've got to do the fronts, you've got to do the backs, you've got to do the tops and bottoms of each board, and the wood stakes. Oh my God, I didn't know what I got myself into, man. It was just so much painting. But you know what? At the end of the day, these carts look pretty darn cool. And I mean, another trick here is you can go ahead and just paint these. You don't have to paint them with washes and leave the base coat of primer showing through. You can paint them and then go back through with the white washer. Just add your weathering that way too. And I'll show you here in a little bit. I do a little bit of that with the panels. And it's just another way to sort of achieve the same effect. And, you know, save yourself. I don't want to say you save yourself time. It's just a different process. And you can get the same look out of it. You know, in art, there's so many ways to achieve the same result. And if it works and it's consistent, then it's not wrong. I mean, if you're getting where you want to be with the process, you know, and you're not just getting lucky or something, and you can repeat the process, then it's a good process, man. We're going to go through here with a little bit of raw. What is that? Raw sienna. I think that's what that is. And really watered down. Just begin to add another little color in here of something for the eye to catch, because what happens if this is all burnt umber, then there's no contrast between the panels and the cart, and it looks like boring. So we need to add just a little bit of something in there to catch the eye. And so I water this down pretty good and begin to lay it over the watered down burnt umber. I like burnt umber. Burnt umber is a great color, man. And it's really easy, just going in the direction of the wood grain. Don't let water fall in between each board and make splotchy, you know, bits of paint. Real light. Let the water and paint get down in there and just do what it does. Hit it with the heat. Get it to dry. It's going to look different too before it dries. So that's another reason I use the heat on it. I want to speed that process up. And if there's any extra water anywhere, it'll dry quickly, and it'll dry differently too. If you let this sit and air dry, you'll get a little bit different look to it, because the water dries over time. But with the heat, the water dries pretty quick and it evaporates pretty evenly. And so you'll get a different look from the shape of the water as it evaporates and leaves behind its sort of stain. And I use tweezers here because these are little small bits and I don't feel like getting paint on my hands. And all this, you know, I do this on cardboard. Well, you can see it doesn't matter. My desk is filthy, but all my cardboard that gets shipped to me from Amazon or wherever else, I save those boxes, I cut them up, and I use them to paint on. And when I'm done, I just fold that thing up and toss it in the recycle. It's a good way to reuse that cardboard. I'm always looking for something to put paint on anyway, like a painter's palette. So I'm always looking for lids or cups, and this solves that problem. I can just put the paint right on the cardboard and just toss it at the end, man. It's just it's so convenient. Real quick too, thanks to my Patreon supporters. I appreciate all of you, and you guys get to see this video first, of course. And for those who are watching this on YouTube, man, give the channel a like and subscribe. And if you haven't checked out my Patreon, there'll be a link in the description of the video. You get over there, and if you're into painting and 3D printing and things like that, I offer lots of different tutorials on how to create Rust, and I give you free files like this cart here. If you were a paid Patreon member, you get this file and you can print your own cards, man. So definitely check that out. Check out my Instagram. Patreon, TikTok, Facebook, all those places, man. And I do sell this stuff. For those who want nothing to do with me and just want my cart, you can buy this on Etsy or my website. So all those links will be in the description of the video. All right, enough talking about where you can find me. And what I'm doing here is once I dry it with the heat gun, I'm making sure there's no splotchy. Everything is blended smooth. Everything has a nice transition. There's no weird, funky water stain left behind. It's giving some weird pattern. And I'm just going back through, and the water with a tiny bit of the paint just smooths it out and just creates a real even surface. I want the colors in there, but I don't want weird, funky patterns. And so the heat gun helps avoid that. And then the watered down paint goes back in and helps me create that blend. And if you're planning on, I know I talk about Mod Podge aerosol a lot. Don't Mod Podge aerosol, this until you're completely done with it, because you won't be able to blend anything. If I spray sealed this right now, I wouldn't be able to fix anything on it. Really, I could, but it'd be a lot tougher. So save the spray sealing till the end. So here we're hitting it with the heat, letting it dry up. Now you can see the panels have a little bit more depth to them. Now let's go in with a little watered down white. Now white can really get in there and ruin something quickly. You think it's watered down enough, but let me tell you, it's probably not. So now I don't want white all over this. I'm just randomly placing long lines, short lines. And once it's on there, I'm not dragging with the brush, because this isn't sealed. So you could begin to muddy the colors up a bit if you continually rub on them with another different color and water. We want to avoid that. So once these panels were good and dry with the heat gun, I go back in here with a little white and I just brush it on real quick. I don't continue to work over the area or anything like that, disturbing the paint, sort of rehydrating the paint that's underneath. And creating some sort of muddy effect. So, but the white really makes this pop out. And you can do, like I said earlier, you can do this. You can just go ahead and paint these and then add white at the end. That's completely another way to do it. I like the combination of doing both. It's totally up to you, but you get to see a couple different ways that I do it. And just whatever looks good, that's what I'm doing. There's no rhyme or reason. Whatever I think looks good to my eye. And look, I mean, we've got some great looking panels here. Some great looking cart bodies. And this all goes together so easily. You can buy this STL file. I'll send it to you unpainted if you want. I mean, you can buy the model unpainted and get it and paint your own. Or you can buy it painted. But this is what I do. So when somebody orders something from me, this cart, this is what I do. This is what I do for you. Another little trick, you saw me spray with that bottle. There's isopropyl alcohol in that bottle. And what that does is it dulls everything down. It really mats it down in a nice flat way. These paints are flat to begin with, but the alcohol just goes through and really just sort of takes all the life out of it, you know. And then I put the heat gun on it right away because we don't want the alcohol to sit on there for any length of time and begin to take the paint and affect the paint, take it off or anything like that. So we hit it with the heat right away. But the alcohol does mat it down quite a bit. It's another trick for you too. If you got a spray paint and you really like a color and it's a matte color, or I mean it's a semi-gloss color in the can, and you can't find a flat color like that, just buy that paint, spray your model, and then hit it with isopropyl alcohol, and it's gonna dull it down. It's gonna take that glossiness off of it. That's a trick I learned. Same thing here. I just spray a little alcohol on there and then hit it with the heat, and it just dulls it right down. And it does blend it out a little bit more too. The other thing about spraying it with the isopropyl here at the end for the white really is because it spreads that white paint out in a really random way and makes it look better than just brushed on. So it's another little trick for you. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully you found value in this video and you were able to, get something out of it and learn from it and apply it to your own, painting projects. And if you have, like I say, like and subscribe. Here's a couple carts, man. Okay. These snap in here. One day they snap in here. There you go. They each have their own side. You've got it. They're lined up perfectly, and you can't put them in the wrong way. So they only go on their own side. So there we go. Get into the cart. But anyway, appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. You can find me on all the social media platforms. You can find these products on Etsy and my website, insightfulimagery.com. I make lots of stuff for Mythic Legions figures, which I collect, and for Mezco, which I also collect. 1/12 scale props. And if that sort of stuff interests you, then look me up. Thanks for watching.